Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this third lecture of Descriptive Statistics and Islamic Approach, we will deal with the concept of life expectancies. This first part A gives an introduction and describes the basic concepts. Traditional courses in statistics convey the impression that a number is a number is a number. There is only one kind of number and all numbers can be treated in the same way. This is emphatically wrong, and one of the main points of this course is to explain that there are many different kinds of numbers. First, we have some qualitative and unmeasurable qualities like corruption, love, intelligence, courage, sympathy. And if we try to attach numbers to them, this can be very harmful because it directs attention away from the real quality towards some manifestation of this. And then there are second type of numbers. These are mixtures of values and facts. So if you have something in which there are many dimensions of performance, like intelligence, for example, so this can be measured by English tests and by math tests and by analytical tests and by many other how to solve puzzles. So in each dimension, a person can be given a numerical score, but when you try to combine those, then values will be involved in assessing which factor is more important, how much weight should be attached to it, and this is inevitable. So even if you have quantitative things, if there are many of them, they cannot be combined into one number without mixing facts and values. And this can be useful relative to some particular purpose, but as you change the purpose, the values and the weights will change and the numbers will change. And so the illusion of objectivity, that these numbers are objective, is created by statistics, which is used to deceive people. The one case in which numbers are actually correctly describing external reality and not mixing it with values is when you have a one-dimensional quantitative object. So for example, how long does a person live? This is a number which is objective. It doesn't have my values. These numbers, the one-dimensional quantitative numbers, are very important because they provide objective measures of external reality. And these provide anchors on which we can build solid analyses. So once we understand that numbers have to be assessed in relation to their reality, in relation to their relationship to the external reality, then we realize that in the Islamic approach that we are taking to the subject, there is no concept of theory, analysis of numbers separate from where they come from. And so the standard approach, which treats the analysis of numbers as a separate problem and where the numbers come from in the real world as a separate problem, this is not possible for us to do, because when we ask the question, what is the purpose of this analysis, this can only be explained in context of real world. When we ask, what do these numbers mean? Again, this answer has to be taken from the real world context. So all of these questions cannot be dealt with if we just have an abstract set of numbers and a theoretical measure. So our approach is very different from the conventional approach. So when we look at numbers about life expectancy, then we have to ask the questions, why are we studying life expectancy? And I have already explained that this provides an objective measure of the countries, which is part of external reality, and it is useful in assessing health conditions in a country and nutrition of people. So what do these life expectancy numbers mean? Well, they reflect medical conditions and access to water and many other factors which go into creating life expectancy. How these numbers are computed, we'll describe this briefly in this present lecture and give a more detailed explanation later. And what does it matter? Why should we be studying these numbers? What impact does this have? This we will explain shortly. So a recent article published in 2019 documents that life expectancies in the USA have been increasing continuously from 1959 to 2014. But then in the last 3 years, 15, 16, and 17, life expectancy has been declining. So this is very strange because all over the world life expectancy is increasing. And so when you look carefully at why this decline has happened, then you find that the decline is driven by increase in middle age mortality. More people are dying in middle age than they used to. So why is this? You look at the causes of death and you find that this is driven by drinking, drugs, depression, suicides, depression leading to suicides. And this is different from world trends, and in other groups, even in the USA, life expectancy is increasing. So from this number, we understand that there is something very wrong with life in the middle age in the US. And there are many studies which explain what these factors are, which have led to increasing stress in middle age life in the USA. So this is a general principle that we look at the numbers to learn about the real world. So these mortality numbers teach us that there is something wrong. Then we have to go into the real world to find out what is wrong. Our analysis never stops at the numbers themselves. The numbers are only indicators of what is happening in reality, and we use these indications to go and explore the real subject matter. So in general, we can use life expectancy as proxy for the health conditions in a country. And we look at countries which have had rapid increase in life expectancy, and when we go and ask how did they achieve this, what kind of policy measures they took, how many hospitals they built, how much food they provided to the people, this will explain who is doing well. Also, if we look at countries which are doing poorly in this measure, then we ask what was wrong with them, how many doctors they had, maybe they didn't have proper nutrition for the population, etc. So again, the life expectancy condition statistics provide an indication of what is happening in the real world, and we can use them to go and explore further the reality. Now we come to the specific calculation details. What does this number mean, life expectancy? Well, it's defined as the average age which a newborn expects to live. But this question doesn't really make sense, because one newborn, he will live to a particular age. Maybe he will live to 15 years or 25 years or 40 years or 60 years. We don't know, but there's only one number and there's no expected, there's no average. So the solution to this problem is to take 1,000 people or 10,000 people born today and trace each of their lives. So one of them will live 5 years, one of them will live 10 years, one of them will live 13 years, and so on. So we take all 1,000 ages of these 1,000 people and take the total life. This is called person years, that all 1,000 people lives. Take the total life and now divide by the population to get the average age of the entire population. So we give a hypothetical example to illustrate this. Suppose that 1,000 people are born today, and we follow them across time, and we see that at the end of 10 years, 850 are alive, 150 of them died. So we calculate the total life of these 150, because that can be done. So an easy assumption is to say that they all died at 5 years, the average age of this 0 to 10 category. So we multiply 150 by 5 and we get 750. This is the total age of the 150 who died. And then we follow the remaining 850 further. So of these 850, we look at the age 10 to 20 category, and we find that 500 of them survive and 350 of these people die in this age category, 10 to 20. So what is the average age of these 350? Well, we approximate this by saying that it's 15, the middle point of this category. And that gives us 350 times 15, which is 5,250. Now we go on to the category of 20 to 30. 500 people are alive. Of these, assume that 400 of them die. So most of them die. So these people, the average age would be 25, the midpoint of the 20 to 30 range. So 425 times 25 is 10,000 years, and that is the number of person years that these 400 people have. Finally, the last 100 make it to the age range of 30 to 40 and assume all of them die. So 100 people die with average age 35. This is 3,500 person years. So now we can calculate the total life of all of these 1000. That is 750 for the 150 people who died in the 0 to 10, 5,250 for the 350 who died at average age of 15, 10,000 for the people who died in the category between 20 to 30, and finally 3,500 for the last category, 30 to 40 years. Add up all of these numbers and you get 19,500. Divide by 1000, which is the total population, and you get 19.5 is the average age of this population. There is another number which is sometimes used. This is called the median life, also called the half-life. We can look at the same data and see that 150 died at age in 0 to 10 category and 350 died in 10 to 20. So 500 people were dead by age 20 and 500 survived past the age of 20. So the median is exactly 20. This is the number. This is the age at which about 500 people die by this date. So at age 20, 500 are dead and 500 are alive beyond 20. So this is a midpoint in a certain way. This is 20. It is close to the 19.5, which is the average life expectancy, but it is different concept, the median life expectancy. So the question is, how do we calculate this number? We cannot calculate it because it requires us to predict the future. We want to know of the newborns, how many will die in the next 10 years, but we cannot know this. But so what is done is we estimate this number by looking at the current mortality rates. We can look at the data for last year and ask what percentage of the population between 0 to 10 years died last year. And then we can use this as an estimate of what will happen to the current batch of newborns. And similarly, we can look at how many people in age category 10 to 20 died last year and use that to forecast what will happen to the newborns 10 years later. So these forecasts are not very, there is no justification for this. Future can be different from the past, but this is the best we can do. And so this is a guess about what will be happening in the future based on the current data about this mortality rate. So to conclude this lecture, we argue that GNP per capita and many other measures, many indexes that we use to assess different groups of people or countries are based on mixtures of subjective and objective criteria, because they take a lot of facts and then they combine them using subjective judgments about which fact is important, which is not. These are the weights for the facts and which factors matter and which can be ignored. So these numbers give like corruption rankings. They are more about the person who is doing the ranking and not about the country which is being ranked. The life expectancy is not a number like that because it is actually about the country. And so similarly, one-dimensional numerical measures of things are about the thing being measured. But if you have multiple indicators or if you have qualitative things, then the numbers are about the person who is doing the measuring. So life expectancy comparisons are objective indicators of a fact about external reality. These numbers provide solid basis for policy. These numbers are not perfectly accurate. They are not like counting the number of people, because they depend on predictions about the future mortality rates, which no one can know. But we use reasonable methods to estimate them, and we get reasonable guesses at what the life expectancy will be. And this is the best we can do with statistics.